Let's look at the MARS 400S Pro Video Transmission System. Hollyland sent me this kit free of charge, and I have no other obligation to them, nor do they get to review or approve of this video. If you're interested how I do reviews, check the description below for a link outlining that process. The MARS 400S Pro is a 5 GHz wireless video transmission system that includes many new features only found on much higher priced models. It uses a 5 GHz transmission signal that includes both HDMI connections, such as those found on most cameras, and SDI connections found on many high-end cinema cameras. One of the major improvements over previous systems is the latency is now 0.08 seconds, which is amazing. Additionally, it gets 400 feet transmission range line of sight, 300 foot on the iPhone app, iOS and Android for both audio and video. And finally, the data transmission rate has been increased to 12 megabits per second. Let's go check it out. The kit is nicely packaged, includes a contact card, quality certificate, and manual. This is the transmitter, and this is the receiver. I like that they are color-coded. Nice touch. This is the included locking DC barrel adapter, and my unit has the US plug. 4 antennas, 2 for each unit. The build quality on these units is excellent. All metal, right down to the color-coded connectors. The only plastic on the unit are these SMA antennas, which can be easily taken off and replaced as needed. On the transmitter, we have an OLED screen and 2 menu buttons. This side includes an SDI connector, which is unusual for a video transmission device in this price range. If you're new to this, you might be familiar with the HDMI cables that come out of your camera. An SDI connector is a different kind of connector used on higher-end equipment, and it's really fast and instantaneous. Above that, I see fan vents, and we'll test the fan noise later to see if those are indeed low noise or not. On the back, we have an on-off switch, a 5 to 12 volt USB charging port, which can not only be used for firmware updates, but also charging the unit batteries, and work as an adapter, which means I don't require it to be battery powered. We have one HDMI in port for connecting your camera, or any HDMI signal for that matter. I'd love to see an out HDMI port in addition, but frankly, most video monitors already have one, and I presume they did that to keep the cost of the units reasonable. Here we have a 5 to 16 volt adapter, which I can also use to power the unit. At first I was disappointed they didn't include 2 adapters until I realized I could power the units with the USB cable, which I have plenty around. Since I have the USB port, I can also use a battery bank like this one and easily get all-day power for these. Lastly, we have a slot to accept Sony NPF batteries, and I almost always use the largest I have, the Sony NPF 970s. They slide and lock into a place, and this button releases the battery, which is a feature you should look for on quality equipment. Otherwise, you'll find the batteries unexpectedly falling out. It's usually the transmitter that is the battery hog, and in my test I was blown away with over 10 hours of battery life, and even more on the receiver. Interestingly enough, you can use the transmitter independently to transmit to a phone or tablet without using the receiver at all, as we'll see later. The receiver is identical to the transmitter in every way. Let's hook up the antennas to these units, mount some batteries, and turn the units on. You're going to see some slight vertical scan lines, just ignore them. That's the refresh rate of the OLED screens, and you don't see this with the naked eye. Both screens sport a very readable display and paired up instantly on startup. These up and down arrow buttons allow you to change channels. If you don't press the middle select button, it returns to the original channel, which is a great safety feature. I love that when changing the channel on the transmitter, the receiver recognizes the channel change and syncs up after just a moment. The transmitter display shows its unit number 1, which, by the way, you can hook up multiple transmitters to this system. The fan indicators show when the fans are active, and frankly, I don't care. These are surprisingly silent. Usually you get a battery level indicator that doesn't really tell you a lot, and I like that they went with a voltage system, meaning when these get to 6.0 volts, they're exhausted. We see the channel these are on, and since they are not hooked up yet, it shows no video. On the receiver, the only difference is we can see if 2 transmitters are running to the receiver and the signal strength of each. A 3-second press on the middle button drops you into a very simple menu system. The up and down arrows are used for navigation and the middle button for selection. Scene mode has HD mode, which prefers the video signal above all else, balanced mode, which is the best of both worlds, the default, and speed mode, meaning the speed of the transmission takes priority over the quality of the signal. You can set the fan speed to auto, slow, or off. I was worried about the fan noise in these units, but frankly, you're listening to both of these units right now with a microphone about 10 inches away, and I don't really hear anything. If the fans are important on a particular shot, turn the fan mode to off or slow, and you'll be good. System settings allows you to force a pairing of the transmitter and receiver, which I have found unnecessary. You may want to use the Hollyland app to control these units and monitor the video feeds, and you can change the password here. It's default 12345678, and we'll look at that later. Version info is great when you need to show what firmware is installed on the unit. Exit takes us back to the main screen. The receiver menus are essentially the same with a few exceptions. Channel scan looks for the best signal, a great feature when you're out in the middle of nowhere or in a high traffic area. These tell me which channels are not ideal with an X and good channels with a check. All other settings are the same except for the addition of network info so you can see what IP and port the receiver is using. All right, we're going to do a distance test. Now, this whole line of sight, 300-400 feet, etc. I've tested so many of these HDMI things, including many of the Mars ones. They're always spot on. They say 400 feet, it's usually way more than that. What I'm really interested in, and the real good test for me, is interference stuff. This is my phone, which I'm going to record the results here so I can show them on the screen on this monitor. I've done this a little bit backwards as I've taken the transmitter here. That transmitter is on a camera back there. That camera back there is pointed at this laptop screen so I can play something and be able to see what's going on and see that there's movement on the feed that it's coming from. You'll see right here. So over here, if I played something like this countdown timer, what would happen is this screen is that camera back there is pointed towards my OBS screen that I'm currently recording with, and it's going to be able to show everything that's happening here. And the speakers are going to run through into the microphone, the audio is going to play, that camera's going to pick it up, and that way I can test this thing. So this is the transmitter from the camera, and I'm going to walk around with this receiver, with this rig, and film this. Let's get this thing running. Boop. Now we're recording, and let's go take a walk and set the countdown timer and see what we got. See back here, this camera is the one that's transmitting to that receiver. Let's go take a walk. So I'm walking out into my other studio now, and you'll notice the white balance isn't going to change because I've locked everything down. I'm already 20-30 feet away from down that hall, and this thing's still playing. Now we're going to walk downstairs. Here we are walking downstairs, and again, the white balance is going to change. It's going to look really ugly in here, and I don't care. I just want to test the monitor. I'm in my living room, and I'm really far away from this thing and have multiple walls and stuff going on that, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. If a transmitter failed this far away through all this stuff that's going on, I'd actually be okay with it. But it's still playing. Let's keep going. Ooh, coffee maker. Let's head on outside here. Now I'm out in the garage. Now, This thing isn't failing, and the reason why I can tell it isn't failing because both the audio is still transmitting and this thing still has a signal, and it looks like it's working. I am really, really far away from where this place is, and again, I got cables and Ethernet and electricity and everything running. Now the real test that always fails on most of these is when I go out back. I've tested so many of these. When I go back out the back door, these things usually fail. So let's head over here. This is where these things usually fail because remember, my back, it's way up there. My back is to this thing, and that usually kills it. Looks like it's still playing. Look at that. Here's when I turn around. Here's when I go this way. Now what usually happens is I lose a signal as I walk out to this waterfall. Every time, every single HDMI transmitter I've had. I see, looks like I may have lost, yep, there we go, I lost the signal. That always happens. But let's see what happens. Does it connect back up? Does it link back up? This is another real test. Can it find this thing? I may have to move in closer. Wow, it linked back up. I'm gonna walk backwards so my body isn't covering it. I expected that to happen. What I don't expect to have happen is for this thing way out here next to this waterfall to keep. Wow, it's doing it. It's still, wow, it's still transmitting. It's still transmitting. Oh, there it goes. It's dicey, but I'll tell you, that is darn far. Let's see if it hooks up back again. Here it comes, hooking back up. That's really good. If you look up here, I am way, way back out in the house, wires and everything else. Great test. I'm really confident this unit can transmit well. Just take a walk this way and go back because the little countdown timer looks like, oop, I got 1 minute till it ends. Let's hoof back upstairs. Here we are. We're back in and it's jamming out. Yeah. This is the camera right here that is filming that screen. Let's see if it picks this one up. Look at that. Okay. Everything I have, no matter how good it is, and I have some really good stuff, cuts out. What surprised me is when I turned around and walked backwards, usually when I get off that back deck and start walking across the grass, it cuts out. And that thing just held for quite some time. Really, really impressed with that distance. And just to round this out, yes, I am just using the transmitter. It is transmitting to the iPad and to my phone at the same time. It's the same lag on both these units. It doesn't matter. That's pretty cool. Now, granted, the thing about connecting to this unit is this Wi-Fi is going to be connecting using the Wi-Fi to here. And that means that your Wi-Fi for everything else is not connected up. And the same with this iPad. It's connecting to this guy's Wi-Fi. Frankly, I don't care, especially with my phone, because although I'm connected to Wi-Fi through the phone, I still have my carrier signal, and I have an unlimited plan anyway, so it doesn't really much matter to me. That may be a consideration. When I'm out shooting and I'm filming and stuff, and I'm happen to use these for monitors, I don't want the Wi-Fi going on. I don't want emails coming, and I don't want all that stuff. Now, if you have another app running that does use the Wi-Fi signal, for instance, I have a slider, but it uses the Bluetooth instead of the Wi-Fi. If you have something, there can be conflicting things going on here. Personally, for what I do, I'm totally fine with this. You may not think this is a very affordable kit at $649, but when you compare this to higher end systems with the same features costing in the thousands, I think this is a fantastic kit which breaks the line between consumer and prosumer video transmission systems. As always, it's your decision if you need or want something like the MARS 400S Pro system, and if you do, I don't think you can go wrong with this kit. Don't forget to check out the free and paid courses over at Basic Filmmaker University and get some elevated audio and video game on. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Pro system. And if you don't, and if you do, of course, make sure I'm shooting and filming and recording so you can make a lot of noise outside. Thank you, garbage people, lawn blower people. Conclusion. As always, it's your decision if you need or want something like the MARS. Stupid take 6,497 billion.